my name is Angela, and I am very happily wrapping up this 6 things that the next gen needs over time. I realized as I was having a blast in first service talking about the 3 things that we're covering today, that I got to schedule whether or not Ron was teaching one part and I was teaching the other, and I hogged all the good ones for me. He did such a good job last week of very impactful things that we will recap today. But the 3 that we're talking about today is just fun. It's so fun. When I stop and think about it's everybody's responsibility to empower the next generation, which is the purpose of what we are trying to convey through this series that's called One Voice, We Can Do More Together. I get all kinds of serious, like, we need to do this, people, we need to do this. Today, as we talk about these other 3 things that we're gonna do, it just reminds me that sometimes the most serious stuff in life is fun. So today should be fun, and we're gonna start out a little bit interactive, and don't panic, I'm not gonna call on you, but I think the best learning happens when we have a clear picture of how to apply it. So I'll do my best to be practical all the way through this, but let's start with a different way of getting in. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. We're gonna spend a minute visualizing. If that's uncomfortable, pull out Elisa's little note sheet, friend, and doodle as we go, because I would like to spend some time visualizing. So I'm gonna close my eyes because I'm comfy. You do as you see fit, or don't see, as the case may be. I would like you to get a specific face in front of your mind's eye. It's gonna be a kid that you know well. It could be your own kid, it could not be, but some kid in your world. I want you to get specific enough that you can tell what height they are. Like if they're in preschool, you're gonna be looking down at them. They're gonna be looking up at you as you visualize them. Middle school is about eye to eye with me right about now. High school towers over me. So picture somebody in your world that you know. Obviously, if you got a face in your head, you know what gender they are, but I want you to get specific enough that you can picture their color of eye, whether they have wavy parts to their hair or not. You can picture this kid belly laughing. You can picture this kid looking at you like, are you sure? Like, I want you to get crystal clear, and as we go through this day, this time together, have this face in your mind. So keep your eyes closed or keep doodling, maybe doodle their name. I want you to picture a future version of that kid. Fast forward a little ways down the road and picture them with a rich shared history with you, where you could reference, hey, remember that time we, or I remember back when you used to blank. I want to get in your mind's eye a picture of that future kid who has a deep sense of worth. They know that they are loved. They know that they are significant in their world. They know that they're missed when they don't come to things that you guys do together. They have a sense of belonging. Picture that future kid with a solid sense of direction. Not just the kind of direction that's like, I know what college I'm going to, I know what career I want, but the kind of solid sense of direction that even when life throws a curveball, they know who they are and they know where they're going in life. I want you to picture that future version of the kid that you know with a worldview that includes them as a global citizen. They see themselves as a piece of a very big world, but a small piece, a significant piece in their world, but a small piece in a much larger narrative. And they have deep empathy for the people that they interact with. That you can picture that future version of the kid that you know, again, belly laughing. But this time, it's a more mature, not like the laugh is more mature, but the body that it is erupting out of is a more mature version of whatever age you know them at now. Okay, you can open your eyes. You're welcome to keep doodling. Dude, that kid with a solid sense of direction, that kid with a deep sense of worth and belonging, that kid with a perspective of being a global citizen, that kid that has the ability to laugh and to enjoy life and to cut loose and feels comfortable enough in their skin to make a loud sound like a belly laugh. That kid, what kind of an employee does that kid grow up to be? What kind of a friend? That is a really good potential spouse for somebody. That kid makes an incredible citizen, an incredible neighbor. That kid is a valuable commodity, an asset to our community, not just this community, but our global community. We need a whole generation of that kid. We need that. And so we're talking about what it takes to empower the next generation. But oftentimes when we talk about the next generation, at least in casual conversations, I find us as adults or older people, might not be adulting yet, but older people, I find us saying things like, well, kids these days, they're always on their phones, or they're like, we got this curmudgeon-y type attitude. I'm pretty sure curmudgeon-y is not a thing. I've seen it on my face, though. We sometimes get into this thing where we feel like in order to develop future leaders, in order to develop the next generation, that somehow we need to fix them. But I would like to suggest that what we owe the next generation is not fixing them. What we owe them is empowerment. What we owe them is this kind of modeling of global citizens, of people who know their worth, of people that create a sense of safety so that belonging can happen. People that use our words over time to affirm them. That's what we need. More so, immediately, that's what we need, because long-term, what we need is a whole community of that type of citizen, of that type of human being. So Ron did an incredible job last week of talking about 3 things that kids need over time, and I loved these principles. But I was also pretty convicted that if I want to be the kind of person that empowers the next generation with these 3 things, or these 6 things that we're going to talk about today, that they actually have to be things that I have in my world. Because his principle of these things are all better caught than taught really holds true. So Ron covered that time over time equals a shared history. That when we spend time with each other over the span of time, it creates this shared history that helps a kid know where they stand, where they exist, where they belong. Words over time create a sense of direction for kids, and love over time develops a sense of worth. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm all grown up these days, and I need those 3 things. I need a myriad of voices. I need one voice that's made up of a myriad of voices speaking this message to me. I think this is a huge piece of the puzzle. So today, as you have that picture in your mind of a kid, I hope you have 2 heart spaces. One that is, what do I want to give that kid to empower them? And one of them is, what do I need to feed into my world so that this is just something that this kid catches off of me, as opposed to something I'm trying to, preach at him. Like you need to know your value. So it's not nearly as effective as just loving them and feeling that sense of value coming off of them. I loved Ron's principle last week about the flywheel. He said it's extremely heavy, originally made of rock, that they would push and push and push, and nothing would happen for a long time because it takes a ton of time. Is anybody in here by chance watching the Titan games? Yes, good job. Okay, so Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is putting on one of those athletic competitions, but it's about heart as well as athleticism. Great stories. Thoroughly enjoy it. But one of the challenges is they have to knock over both male and female candidates, is not the right word, contestants. Male and female contestants have to knock over a 1,000-pound wall. 1,000 pounds! The men, they're big and burly, and they just run at it and jump and smash themselves against it. And in general, that's enough to get the thing going. The female contestants have to handle it completely different. They also run it. They also throw their body weight at it, but they have to apply science as well, and they rock it. until it gets going enough that they can get that thing over. And they all have to do it because they're so far outweighed by this wall. That was Ron's principle last week about the flywheel. Same thing with these things. They're all incredibly powerful, but the power doesn't come in the momentary enactment of these things. All of these things gain power over time as you push on it. And at first it's like, okay, I gave them a compliment. Do they have a deep sense of value yet? Like, is it there yet? It's like these things all gain power over time. Time is the constant in each of the formulas of these influences. And that's true of the other three that we're going to talk about today. It's all of it over time. Our hope is, in talking about these six things, these six things, is that you will already earmark places that you're doing it. And it's just a pat on the back. Like, I had no idea that small moment where I said, I just like being with you. You're just so stinking funny to me. That little moment is a big moment over time. You're already doing it. So I'm going to give you ideas for how to apply these principles today. But for some of us, massive parts of what I'm going to say today, all you need to do is earmark, oh my word, that thing I'm already doing really can have an influence. I'm going to keep it up. It's not to add to your lists. So let's talk about tribes. This is the fourth. The four things that happen over time. A tribe over time creates a sense of belonging. And when you put tribes together with the time piece, the time over time, you have both a shared history and a sense of belonging. A tribe is just defined as a group of people who share something in common. You and I belong to a lot of different kinds of tribes. I am a daughter, so I am part of a family tribe. I am a pastor, so I'm part of the pastor tribe. I am a part of New Life, so I'm part of the New Life tribe. I am, in first service, I made the mistake of saying I'm a soccer player. I feel like it's more accurate to say that I play soccer. I think that's not quite the same thing. I have big dreams, though. So I am part of a soccer tribe. We have all kinds of tribes that we share something in common with. And they all give us, especially if you have a variety of tribes, they give us this sense of belonging. But there are a couple of tribes that we have available to us in life that are significantly more powerful than the others. They all provide this idea that a kid can say to themselves, or I say to myself, this is where I belong. These are my people. I am loved here. I am these people's loved ones. All tribes provide some form of that, but some were designed by God to be incredibly strategic. And the two that I see God instituting himself directly was this idea of family and the idea of church. And here's why I think these two particular tribes are incredibly powerful with that constant of time, is grace is their distinctive. I played volleyball in high school, which was a huge mistake. My sister is the athlete and the competitive one, and I went to watch her try out, which I called an audition, so that should tell you something. I went to watch her try out for it, and the JV team thought I was watching them to see if I wanted to play. So when a whole bunch of socialites came over to me, were like, are you going to play with us? I am me. The answer is yes, I want to be part of your tribe. So I played volleyball, but I'm not particularly athletic, and I am not competitive, and I did not appreciate being screamed at by the coach. I have very specific memories of staring. When she got really mad, the tip of her nose would move a lot while she was talking, and I'd just stare at it because I was trying to survive the trauma that was being screamed at by the JV coach. And at one point, I do remember thinking, does she think screaming at me is going to make me try harder? Like, I did not get it. So I quit at the end of the season because it was not a good fit for me at all. What I did not know was that I had betrayed my tribe. I thought we've been friends. We've been together this whole season. We have weathered a lot of screaming together. I thought we were a tribe, but to the tribe, I had betrayed the thing that we had in common, and I lost my entire friendship circle. I started my sophomore year over completely relationally. Family and church are the two places that should be a constant over time, that it doesn't matter what life throws our way. It doesn't matter whether we're in or we're out at that moment. The Bible tells the story of the prodigal son who was one of two siblings, and the younger son decided, I'm over this tribe. I would like my inheritance now. And so the father gave the inheritance to him, and off he went to go find his tribe. And after a couple of years, squandering all of the money, finding himself feeding pigs for a living in the middle of a famine, he decides, hey, that tribe that I had was pretty good. And the Bible tells a story of the young son coming back, and that the father was watching for his arrival years later, that he ran to the son and he threw a party. It wasn't just like, I told you so. It was, you're back! And all was back to rights with the tribe. And Jesus told the story, it's in Luke, Jesus told the story to illustrate what God thinks of us and how the church should think of each other. We were meant to have our distinctive nature of this tribe, more so than any other knitting circle you belong to, or sports. I mean, we weather things. A couple of games ago, I had a perfect shot. It was wide open, and I got so excited that I whiffed the ball. Literally didn't touch the ball, right by it. To which, because I am yelling, I'm so sorry, girls, I'm so sorry. There was forgiveness in soccer. Like, we had grace. They had grace for me. I'm not off the team because of that moment. It's nothing like the wrestling match that goes on inside a family. It's nothing like the grace that is required inside these long-term, deeply relational tribes that are family and church. So when it comes to applying the tribe thing, I want to talk about this. For families, when it comes to you pressing into this concept of helping the next generation have a sense of tribe, I would say your Sunday morning participation is gigantic. It's gigantic. If your kids are spending all week long with their school tribe and their sports tribe and their academic tribe and all of those other tribes, you finding a way to be consistent with your partnership in getting them to this tribe, in fostering the friendships that they make in this tribe, is a huge deal. This is one of those things. It's like, hey, you're sitting here listening to me say this, so check. Nice work. Nice work. I would say if you're not doing it, consider midweek connections that you can make so that the tribe that they meet here on Sunday bleeds into slumber parties midweek, bleeds into pizza lunches after Sunday tribe. Anything you can do to foster connections inside of this tribe is a huge benefit to the next generation. Influencers, that's those of us that don't have a family that we are trying to empower directly ourselves. We're looking to use our influence in the lives of others. Voluntary time is what causes a tribe to happen. When a kid looks at you like, why did you want to do this with me? And your answer is like, because we're us. Of course we want to do this. I love being with you. This is your instigation that makes a huge difference in the tribe sense. And then this is an unusual one, but when grace is the distinctive, highlighting forgiveness is a huge, huge deal. And lots of times when we have these periphery type relationships, in a marriage, you might have to do the whole sorry and forgiveness formally. That's a thing that we do to foster intimacy inside of those relationships. But lots of times in these mentor types relationships, we like to sweep that controversy under the rug so it's not uncomfortable. So a kid disrespects us or stands us up and forgets to tell us that they weren't going to be at the place where you said you were going to meet. Forgiveness is part of that friendship too, but most of the time I like to downplay that because I don't want them to feel badly. But actually, for the last couple of years, I have spent some serious time working I'm sorry into the conversation and working I forgive you into the conversation. And so when we were praying about this concept, it's like, whoa, forgiveness is a huge step for cementing that our relationship, this tribe, makes it over that kind of bump just fine and formally puts us back on the right so that they know where they belong and they have a firm foundation to stand on. And then I think the tribe of New Life needs to apply this concept as well. And how we're going to work to apply this is in that strategy that we're going to be talking about next Sunday at the community update. We are overhauling our format of Sunday mornings in here to foster tribes in a different way, to strategize how can kids make this sense of connection, both with their peers and with the people who are in there volunteering for the purposes of empowering them. Completely new format and completely different emphasis in order to foster this sense of tribe. Again, our teaching series is called One Voice, We Can Do More Together. If you guys, as families and influencers, are pushing into this tribe concept and the church joins that with a single voice, we can do a ton together. So that's the fourth thing over time. Tribes over time create a sense of belonging. Here's a little, I forgot this in first service too. Thank you, Jessica. It's a good point. Who should feel the most welcome here in this tribe? I was super, super convicted with the idea that a tantruming 2-year-old should feel the most welcome out of anybody in our church. Or that a hesitant middle schooler, and you know what I mean by hesitant, like trying not to make eye contact, maybe the hood is up, the arms might be crossed, that a hesitant middle schooler might be exactly the person who should feel the most welcome here. It's part of the way that we prove to that middle schooler or the sullen teenager or the crying, like the kid that is struggling the most to feel at home, to let their guards down. That's where we as a tribe can communicate volumes. Last week, Ron said, when a kid is actually showing disrespect or struggling, and we use our words of affirmation in that moment, how powerful that can be. That's the same thing. This tribe can prove a ton when we are affirming what we're not certain I don't know how to interact with a toddler that is having a tantrum on the floor. When my heart goes out and I create safety for that child in that moment, for that family in that moment, and endorse them in that moment, we cement tribe here. So a quick recap. Tribes over time equal belonging. Time over time equals a shared history. Words over time creates a sense of direction. Love over time deepens their sense of worth. Tribes over time create belonging. And stories over time, that's the fifth one. Stories over time produce perspective. I have never heard anybody in church talk about the power of stories, even though our Bible is packed full of stories. And we like to reference them. I've never heard somebody talk about the power of stories, but we cannot underestimate the power of stories because something new happens when you bring stories over the span of time. And not just true stories or Bible stories or biographies, just flat out stories over time. Something new happens. So let's talk about what happens when family stories are shared over time. When family stories are shared, we deepen that sense of tribe, and a kid gets a sense of identity. Remember that vacation we went on. Remember that car accident that we got into and our bright yellow beetle bug, and we sat around eating a case of Satsumas waiting for the insurance to handle it? Like when you tell family stories over time, a sense of tribe and identity is firmed up into a kid. When we share culture stories over time, and Elise was a perfect example of that this morning, talking about what her experiences were on her first missions trip. She developed a great sense of empathy through that experience. Stories pull our minds out to that same place, even when our bodies can't go. And cultural stories develop a worldview. That global citizen of who I am in the grand spectrum of the world, how I interact with that, how life works, how other people see me on the other side of me. This worldview is incredibly powerful through culture stories and then Bible stories. Ignite the imagination about a God that is utterly different. We interact with each other all of the time, and we can see pieces of God all over the place. But Bible stories pull us up to ignite our imagination about who God is, how big he is, and write a narrative about him that can carry us through the difficult times. Bible stories have an incredibly impactful. But stories over time produce perspective on all of the big rocks in life. My narrative about God, my developing my faith, developing my value system, what my narrative is to live a successful life, who I am as self and how other people are. What my narrative is about them and how I interact with them. It cements all of the big rocks in life, stories over time. Don't underestimate them. In fact, almost every industry uses that's an overstatement. I'm all kinds of imagination. Many industries use some form of imagination to succeed. Sports uses visualization. They picture the play unfolding when they are not in the game, so that when they're in the game, they have practiced that in their head to make it happen. Imagination is ignited when we set goals. In business, there's a thing called a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. They use the imagination of what could be to spark productivity in the now. It's an incredibly powerful tool. Jesus used parables. They were not true stories. They're stories that could be true. They were not true stories. They were stories that he made up in order to illustrate a point or to bring a concept home or to help people picture what he was trying to teach. He knew the power of stories, and goals is a picture of what could be in order to inspire the now. True stories produce empathy and a connection to God. Fiction stories produce courage and the could-be idea. There is a reason why we are drawn to characters like Frodo. There's a reason why we're drawn to characters like Katniss Everdeen, or Nancy Drew, or Harry Potter. These stories and these characters develop in our minds pictures of what could be and who we want to be. Stories invite kids into a larger narrative where they're designed to play a significant role. All of our favorite characters were the hero, the heroine of their story for the most part. That's why we read these stories, to pull us into that moment. Behind the scenes, here's just a list of some of the things that use of our imagination does. It constantly points us to the struggle between good and evil that is real in life, even if the book that we're reading is fiction. It constantly reminds us that there is a struggle between good and evil, the potential of a person or the potential of pulling persons together into a team. It constantly points to the existence of the supernatural. Again, even when we're reading fiction books that we know are not supernatural, when we have spent time in our imaginations dreaming up about supernatural things and miraculous powers like superheroes, it helps us believe in a big God, even if it's not a direct correlation, and the possibility of what could be. But it also prepares us and the kids that read them to face whatever happens. Every story has a plot line that does this. And yet you're watching these characters take the next step whenever life hits them this way. And it prepares them to stand in the face of that. It compels them to take risks. It challenges them to do something significant with their lives. And it moves them to believe in the power of good to triumph over evil. And this is just fiction stories. Just fiction. You want to throw Bible stories in there? You want to throw testimony stories in there? When we start to share our stories, story has an incredible, powerful effect. So when we go to apply it, this is another place where you might just be patting yourself on the back because you're already doing it. Families, empower readers. Maximize that time right before they go to bed. How powerful is it to read something and then fall asleep with those thoughts swirling in your head? So powerful. Adults, not a bad lesson. That might be one of those. I need to catch this so that I teach it. Empower readers, and then also monitor your own stories. This is so convicting to me. I have a storyteller in my head that interprets what is happening in my life and the feedback that I get from people. And sometimes she's a meanie. And I have to monitor the stories that I'm telling myself. So I am intentional about what I read or watch before I go to bed. I am intentional about the books that I bring into my world. This might seem silly, you guys, but these books all came into my world in the last 2 years to help me with the journey that I'm on. I'm monitoring my stories. This is a child's book that I passed in Costco, but she makes me love her. She caught my eye. I like myself because I'm me. There's no one else I'd rather be. I like my fingers and my toes. I like my eyes, my ears, and nose. And it goes on about her awesome attributes. I'm not joking, for a month, this was my bedtime story because I needed this story in my heart. And it just goes on. Somebody gave me a book for Christmas about what to do with a chance that just touched me because I am praying about a chance that God set in front of me. And I needed a kid's book to condense it down so that it can just go in. I have other ones that are adultish, like monitor your stories might be the thing you take home today in order for kids to catch off of you the stories that you want them to hear. For influencers, maximize your sharing. Tell the stories. So, Friday, I did my first mud bath. Has anybody done an old school mud bath, volcanic ash? Okay, it's mortifying. And they do not prepare you at all for that process. I'll just say there's not a lot of dignity to be had in mud baths. There's a lot of detoxification. There's a lot of relaxation once you get over body image issues. But the story that I learned this last Friday, when I share that with the teenage girls in my world, it's stinking hilarious. I mean, it is a hilarious story. While we laugh about that, we are absolutely talking about body image. We are absolutely talking about shame tapes that we all play. We are absolutely talking about serious business while we are laughing our butts off at mud and the places that it goes. Influences, maximize sharing and retell stories. Whatever your shared stories are with that kid that you are trying to empower, tell them the story and tell them over and over and over and over again. It does so much good for their hearts to be walked down memory lane in that way. And the New Life, we're going to maximize and approach stories and utilize stories in entirely different ways than we ever have before. All I'm going to say is next Sunday at 2, you got to come hear what God is doing in our next gen areas because we're going to use stories in a different way. And then lastly is fun. Fun over time produces connection. And listen, fun is serious business, you guys. Some of us, we actually act like fun is serious business. we sort of treat fun like a special occasion, like it's a thing that we go to and have happen, as opposed to when you watch a kid, they live in funland. Fun is that beetle bug that is crossing my path right now. Fun is all around them, but we lose some of that, and sometimes I think we lose it and we shun it as though it's not mature. Fun for fun's sake is incredibly powerful, and I'll go through this as fast as I can, but we are not skipping a fun little video. God, I believe, displayed that fun is serious business by putting fun in all over nature, and I don't mean to bring nature every single time I come up here, but that's how I see God, so it just happens. Dolphins play, dogs play, cats play, so many different animals out there play for fun's sake. I see God in that. We're just going to watch a few moments of an otter, who I think might be my spirit animal. Hit that, Jessica. Oh my gosh! You do not want to know how many times this week I watched this video. They juggle rocks, you guys. There is no good reason in nature that otters need to have the skill of juggling rocks. This is not a survival technique. It could signal hunger. It could. It is their little tool. All right, Jess, we got to cut that short. All right. I believe God wove fun. Does it keep going on? There was one that had 3, totally managing it, completely managing it. Nature has a play drive, I believe, that points to something about God. That he, in the whole fight or flight, survival of the fittest business, fun is still part of our natural world. But also, I believe God's creation reflects a nature about him that suggests he likes fun for fun's sake. Did you know that there are 750 different types of butterflies? Yes! There are 11,000 types of moths. If you're God and you create a butterfly to do a particular job, why don't you just create a lot of the same butterfly? Why create so many different kinds of butterflies? I grew up with this poster, which is a picture of butterfly wings from around the world. It has the English alphabet somewhere on butterfly wings and our numbers. God did not have to do that. That's not a thing he has to do. He just does. Why would God create a platypus? You guys, do you know what a platypus looks like? Why? Why create that current that's right? I should have looked this up. What's the current that's in Turtle Talk with Crush? Yes. Dang it, that's going to bother us all. Why underwater currents? We already have a whole ocean. Why rivers inside of the ocean? Why? Why salmon that live part of their lives in freshwater and part of their lives in saltwater? Why? Nature just points to a God that likes fun. And fun might not be a word that is in the Bible, but all of his cousins are. Rejoice, dance, sing, celebrate joy. The fruit of the Spirit is joy. God instituted a boatload of parties. If you've ever read your Old Testament, they are like packed full. Every time they turn around, they're having a holiday. He loves fun. But fun for fun's sake does something incredibly important. Fun connects us. And here's a couple of ways. It reconnects the disconnected. It convinces a kid that we like them. We don't just love them. We're not obligated to them. We like them. It fosters resilience. Even when life hits me and it's ugly, there's something to laugh about. There's something to cut loose about. It fosters resilience. This is not the only thing happening in the world, this sad or hard thing. And it authenticates forgiveness. Have you ever had a friendship that went through a bump? The next time you laugh and all of your guards are down and you're having a good time, it re-cements that relationship. Yeah, we're okay. We're bigger than this bump. We're fine. It authenticates forgiveness. Fun, you guys, is serious business. It's serious business, but it should not look like serious business. It should look like the otter. All right, apply it. Families, leverage it. You have moments. Some of you that I know, parents, you are the best at the 2-second party. That shared eye contact, that giggle, that moment. Man, some of you leverage this so well. Keep doing it. Influencers, initiate it. Telling a story about a mud bath is a super serious business, but it should initiate these things, initiate fun. And then New Life, we're going to strategize it. It's all part of that next gen overhaul that we are doing. Fun plays a significant role in what we're going to do in this tribe over there in our next gen spaces. We will be talking about that next Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Community Update. RCP for childcare on your Connect card. Okay, super fun. Elise, will you walk us out of this morning, please?
Lady, here I am. All right. Tribes, stories, and fun. As she was talking, I thought, well, I think I've done a good job of building my tribes, but I think it's time to start building some intentional tribes for my kids, so I really like that. And the fun, we do like the dance party. You turn up the music, and the bass is like our windows are vibrating in our vehicle. And we're like, yeah! My kids love that. That is fun for us. Okay, if this is your first time here, please hit up the guest kiosk in the lobby. We have a gift from us to you. It is a mug with some other fun things inside. Please grab that on your way out. We would love for you to have it. And as we close up, this is when our guest services team is going to come on up, and you get to put your Start Here card and your investment envelope in the baskets as they pass. While they are passing baskets, our band is going to rock us out. So I hope you have a great Sunday. Enjoy.